The mallard Quasimoon runs through the forest with a strange object tossed to him by Rorik. A trail of blood follows him from the wound given to him by the warrior. He will not last long, at least not without any help. His only chance of survival is to seek out Leonara and the cult of Sathmog. Yes, they will pay a handsome price for the statue piece he carries. Suddenly, there is a howl off in the distance. Quasimoon freezes and ducks behind a tree. He tries to identify what creature made such a horrific sound. A wolf? A warg? He curses. He can no longer afford such an expeditious retreat, especially if there are things that would stalk and eat him. He clutches the wound given to him by Rorik. New plan. Stop the bleeding to stop leaving traces. After that, he'll lay low at the hideout for a few days and then make his way back to Leonara so he can get paid. Once that's taken care of, and when he's healed up, he'll hire some more men. He'll need them if Rorik survives. The crazed look in the man's eyes told Quasimoon that his was a vengeance he would never let go. He'll be back, and when he comes calling, Quasimoon will be ready. Welcome to the castle, everyone. Come on in and take a seat. My name is Alex. I am your host, your player, your GM for A Table for One, a solo role-playing podcast. And this is the Dragonbane playthrough. In the last episode, Rorik, Jaina, and Grub managed to, they ran away from the big bad white. And Jaina managed to get to the antechamber first, where she was kind of held hostage by Quasimoon. And in exchange for something valuable, he let Jaina go. And of course, Rorik gave him this odd statuette piece that, for some reason, he's been collecting. He's managed to get 2 pieces thus far, and so he gave him one of them. Quasimoon escaped while his band of adventurers tried to deal with the white. Unsuccessfully, by the way. Rorik, Jaina, and Grub managed to get out after that. Rorik had a duel with Quasimoon. While he did do the mallard a pretty big blow, Quasimoon actually got the better of him and dropped Rorik. And so we ended the last episode with Rorik, he's in the stages of death at this point. So the first thing that we do need to do is figure out exactly what this death roll is. On your turn in each subsequent round, you must make a death roll, a roll against your constitution. The death roll cannot be pushed if that optional rule is used. Record the results of your death rolls on your character sheet. After 3 successful death rolls, you recover d6 HP. After 3 failed death rolls, your player character dies. Rolling a dragon counts as 2 successful death rolls, and rolling a demon counts as 2 failures. If the combat ends, keep counting rounds until all death rolls have been made. And so the first thing that Jaina is going to do, because she was not included in the battle, the first thing that Jaina is going to do as she watched her brother fall is that she's going to rush forward, and she's got to do something to stabilize Rorik, who's bleeding out. Jaina does have some healing skill. She's got a 12 in healing, and so she is going to try to heal her brother. When you have 0 HP, another person next to you can save your life with a successful healing roll. Without bandages, they get a bane to the roll. This counts as an action. Multiple attempts are allowed. If the roll succeeds, you stop making death rolls and recover d6 HP. You cannot save your own life this way, even if you have rallied. Additional healing rolls have no effect once you are no longer at 0 HP, except when resting. Magic can save lives as well. Unfortunately, Jaina does not have access to healing magic just quite yet. But we do have bandages. Rorik did purchase a bundle of bandages. And if I remember correctly, they come in a bundle of 10. We've already used 1 on a previous heal for Rorik, surprisingly. And so Jaina is going to use those bandages to try to stabilize Rorik. So we are not going to have a bane for this roll, but still there's a chance of failure. But we can roll as many times as we want. So I'm going to actually roll for Jaina. If she fails, then Rorik is going to attempt a death saving throw, and then we'll kind of go back and forth and see what's up. So we've got our D20. We need to get a 12 or under to succeed, so let's see what happens. An 8 is successful, so Jaina manages to get the bandages from Rorik's pack, and she starts to inspect the wound, and she starts to wrap him up, keeping pressure on that wound, and eventually she manages to stop the bleeding. Rorik heals a d6 worth of HP, so let's see what happens. He heals up 3 HP. So that puts him at 3 out of the 14 available for him. So we've actually managed to stabilize him for now. The next thing that we need to do is worry about the severe injury. If you have been reduced to 0 HP but survived, you risk severe injuries that can take a long time to heal and even have permanent effects. Make a roll against con. If you fail, roll on the table below. The healing time is halved if you rest and get medical care for at least a shift per day from a person who makes a healing roll. Skill levels that are reduced by permanent injuries can be relearned. So this means that Rorik needs to roll a Constitution roll. He has a 12 in con, so that's fairly good. It's above 50%. So we're going to go ahead and roll our d20 and see what happens. So a 6 is successful, and we do not need to worry about a severe injury. So Rorik managed to get stabbed, was stabilized, and managed to be free of a severe injury. So that's pretty good so far. But that's just the beginning. We're out in the wilderness here in Riddermound, and so it's going to be up to Jaina to kind of figure out a way. So we're going to say that Rorik is still unconscious for now, just to kind of add a little bit of dramatic tension. So it's Jaina and Grub who actually have to protect Rorik for now. After Jaina has managed to stabilize her brother, she's got to look for some way where they can camp, some way that they can get to safety. Because remember, they're still 2 days away from Outskirt, and so rations are going to be very sparse, especially now that they have a third person in their party, and so time is ticking basically. First things first though, we're going to have Jaina roll for bushcraft to see if she can somehow manage to set up a successful camp. Unfortunately, her bushcraft is at 6. That's pretty bad. Then again, Rorik's is only 8, so it's not much better. So we have our d20. Let's see what happens. Unfortunately, that is a demon. Uh-oh. So things are very, very dire. And so when rolling a demon, there's a couple of things that we can do. Something bad is going to happen. So we can have something like Jaina manages to hurt herself or an item that she's using. You can make a fool of yourself in front of everyone around you, or you make a lot of noise. The interesting thing about making a lot of noise, especially in this situation, is that we might actually have some type of a wild animal. And so what I'm going to ask my oracle is Jaina going to make a lot of noise? Okay, so we're going to roll our oracle and see if that's what's going to come up. Yes, and so something else is tied to this result. And I'm definitely going to say that she draws the attention of something. Unfortunately, there really isn't a handy-dandy table that says, hey, these are all the beasts that are in this region, and this is what can come up. That is something that I would have to do myself, and, well, I did not have that prepared. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to ask the oracle. I'm going to have 2 different categories. I'm going to have beasts, and I'm going to have animals. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to ask the oracle, is it an animal? No. Double and. And I think a no in this situation would just suffice, because the alternative is that it is a beast. And I think something that actually makes sense is that a warg is going to stumble upon this area. Because remember, Grub is a goblin. There were goblins in that tomb. Grub was the only one, and so it only makes sense that maybe the goblins brought a warg, or maybe there's more of them that are just not here. And so I think that a hungry warg is going to stumble in this area. So that means we are going to actually roll to see if we notice the warg. Now, the wargs are very interesting because they're really good at sneaking. In fact, we get a bane to even attempt to perceive them. And so we have 2d20 here. Jaina is going to roll an awareness check to see if she can spot the warg before it's too late. And then we're also going to roll one for Grub. So Jaina does have an awareness of 13, so let's roll the dice and see what happened. A 7 and an 11. That, surprisingly, is a success. So now we are going to roll for Grub. Now remember, Grub is an NPC in this instance. He only has a couple of stats, so everything else that we roll for him is going to be at a skill rank 10. So let's see what happens. A 15 and a 9 just doesn't quite cut it for Grub, but Jaina was successful. So Jaina was in the middle of trying to set up camp, but in her haste, in her worry, in her anger possibly, she has just made too much noise, and a hungry warg has begun to sneak around, but she notices it before it gets too close. Grub is off doing his own thing. He doesn't quite notice it just yet, but Jaina kind of moves cautiously toward Grub and nudges him, and now he is suddenly aware. Unfortunately, Jaina's WP is at 14 out of 15. That means she's only got 1 to work with. There's really nothing that she can do here unless she uses just her cantrips, I suppose. I forget what they're called here, but that's not really going to do anything. Those aren't attacks. So I think instead she's going to pull out something that she doesn't really ever use all that often. She's going to pull out her staff, and she is definitely prepared to protect her brother. Grub notices that Jaina is preparing for something, and he's going to pull out his short sword as well. Now, Grub has never really successfully hit anything physical with his short sword, so I think that goblin poison is still going to be encrusted upon the blade. So maybe we can make that work for us. So when we actually draw for initiative, I'm going to draw for Jaina, then the warg, and then Grub because he failed in his awareness check. And actually really surprising, I don't know why Grub is pulling out his short sword when he has a perfectly fine short bow. That might actually be the better play, but I think with Rorik down, he's going to try to summon as much courage as he possibly can to protect the pretty lady, I suppose. So Jaina's initiative is an 8. Oh no, that's not good. Then again, the warg could get a 10 or a 9. Let's see. A 10? Oh yeah, that's pretty sweet. And Grub, a 3. So Grub is going first, unfortunately. And so you can kind of see that Grub and Jaina are going to be just on the edge there, protecting Rorik, who is down and out. And the warg is going to be probably like along the edge of the clearing, trying to be as stealthy as possible. Of course, Jaina is going to nudge Grub and point in the direction, getting ready for this attack. So what is Grub going to do? Well, you know what? I think he's actually going to use a short bow in this instance, because Jaina has pointed over to the clearing. So he's going to get his short bow, and he's going to attempt to try to attack the warg. Now, I am actually going to roll this with a Bane because he doesn't know specifically where the warg is. The warg is still in stealth mode, and Grub did not pass his awareness check. So we have 2d20. We're going to roll at a Bane. Grub's short bow skill, I believe, is at 10, even though he does get like a bonus of damage with it. So let's see what happens. Oh, I saw the dice roll and I saw it hit that 8, and then that other die just knocked it out of the way for a 19. That would have been a success if the 2 dice hadn't collided. But alas, a 2 and a 19 is not successful with that Bane. So Grub manages to release the arrow into the bushes somewhere, and it's not where the warg is, unfortunately. And actually, something that we can do that I never really considered before, we can do a round rest. And this is a way of recovering WP, which I think would definitely be beneficial for Jaina in this instance, since she's only clinging on to 1. And so what this is, a round rest, you rest and recover D6 WP. This can only be done once per shift. And these are under the actions in combat, so I think Jaina is going to try to focus and concentrate and try to get some of her strength back. So we're going to roll a d6 to see how much WP she's going to recover. 6? Yes, I am down for that. That's actually way better than the one that I think we rolled in the last episode or something like that. So that means she's got 7 WP to work with for this combat, which is actually really nice. Unfortunately, she spent her action, and so it is the warg's turn. They've both spent their actions, but then again, this is a monster, so they can dodge, but they've already wasted their action, so they can't really do anything. The warg is going to make its presence known. Let's see, what is it going to do? I've got my D6. Let's see what happens. We rolled a 3. Warg bite. The warg opens its drooling jaws and delivers a furious bite to an opponent. The attack inflicts 2d6 piercing damage, and a victim who takes damage is also exposed to a disease with virulence 12. Oh, this is going to put us in a bad spot. We need to decide, is it going to be Grub, the nice tasty little snack, or is it going to be Jaina? We're going to roll a d6. Odds are going to be Grub, evens will be Jaina. A 5, Grub is going to become a tasty little snack. The warg is going to deal 2d6 points of damage, and if I remember correctly, Grub only has 4 HP left. So chances of us rolling a 2 or under for both of these, pretty low. So let's roll and see what happens. A 5 and a 1 makes 6. He is wearing leather armor, so 2 of those points get taken away. He's right at 0. Ooh, that's unfortunate. But we'll see what happens in the end. Is he going to be dead, or does he get to survive with, I don't know, possibly a death saving throw? We'll find out. So Grub is down for the count. That leaves Jaina versus the warg. All right, we're going to draw for Jaina's initiative. Let's see what's going to happen. We would like to go before the warg, but that's not a guaranteed at this point. So let's see, Jaina has a 4. Okay. It's not in the middle, it's not towards the end. The warg has a 9. Okay, so we are still in this fight. We can still make something happen. So Jaina is right there with the warg, since it was within close proximity, and well, Grub is now within the maws of the warg, which is rather unfortunate. And of course, Rorik is still laying down over there. Jaina, she's got her magic back. What can she possibly do? Unfortunately, as much as I really don't like to put Grub at risk, I think she is going to cast Fireball. I think she's kind of fed up at this point that everything has just gone to hell. So Jaina is going to go full blast. She's going to convert 6 WP that she just got back to make a Fireball power level 3. So she's rolling 2d6 for the normal Fireball, and then she's getting an additional d6 after that. So that means she's going to be rolling 4d6. But before we get to that, she needs to roll to see if she even hits. So she has an elementalism of 13. Let's roll and see what happens. A 4 is successful, so we're gonna go ahead and roll those 4d6 and see how much damage we're doing to this warg. The warg has 18 HP, so it is possible that we can reach that with this roll, but chances are kind of stacked against us at the moment. We have at least 12 with those 4 3s, and the 5 makes 17. We're just 1 off from actually getting to that 18. Ugh, that's rather frustrating. And so, unfortunately, it is the warg's turn. I don't think it's feasible that the warg is going to stay and fight any longer. It has its prey. It's probably time to get out and run, but it is clinging on to 1 last HP. It is almost dead. Its fur is crisp and burnt. I mean, it might not even have fur at this point. It could just all be burnt off. So I am going to roll an Oracle, and this is what is going to tie Grub's fate. Does the warg let go of Grub? No, but It doesn't drop Grub, but Grub does drop his weapons. And he's got a short sword and he's got a short bow. The warg turns and starts to run with Grub in its mouth. Jaina sees all of his items just drop. She does not want to let this warg claim Grub. Grub has done a lot for her and her brother, and so it would just be a waste to let this poor little green fool die without her putting up some sort of a fight. She is out of magic though. She's only clinging on to 1 WP. She can't do anything. She will run forward and get that bow, and she's got 1 shot. If she misses, the warg is gone. And since it is running through foliage and whatnot, we are going to be rolling at a Bane. That's a lot of disadvantage for just this 1 shot. But Jaina does have a secret. She has bows of 12, so she is not fully untrained with a bow. While she was at magic school, she has learned some weaponry. Staves, of course, because it is made of all of wood. Metal in this world somehow hampers magic. And so bow, a nice wooden bow, is also another weapon that she had taken to, something ranged for when she's out hunting or out of magic. And so she takes Grub's bow, his short bow. She's got 1 chance to get a hit. We have 2d20 for the Bane. She has to get a 12 or under. Let's roll and see what happens. A 12 and a 6. Just barely make it. She lets the arrow loose. It flies through brush, and eventually she hears a little yelp. She doesn't know. Did she hit it? Did she hit Grub? What happened? She carefully goes over to where the arrow went, goes through some of the brush and the foliage, and there she finds the warg with the arrow sticking at its neck. Grub is just there on the floor bleeding out. So we need to roll and see what's going to happen to Grub. I am considering Grub as to be an NPC, and so he is going to start to roll for death saves. And so his roll is going to be at a con 10 or under. A 2, that is successful. So Jaina is going to pick up little Grub and she's going to bring him back to the camp that she had tried to build, where she had fumbled and just made too much noise. She sets Grub down, gets some bandages out, and she begins to tend his wounds. She's got a healing of 12. Let's roll and see what happens. A 17, unfortunately, is just not enough to stabilize Grub just yet. So Grub does need to roll another death save. 13, unfortunately, that is his first failure. So he's at 1 success, 1 failure. But Jaina's not giving up. She's going to continue to wrap Grub in bandages to try to stabilize him, to get rid of that bleeding from the warg's sharp teeth. A 3 this time is successful, so how much does Grub heal up? We have our d6. He heals up a full 6 HP. Wow, that's actually like almost up to full. But he is going to be unconscious for a little while. But Jaina does notice that he's no longer bleeding and his breathing has stabilized. So that's 2 of our characters down and out. Rorik is still unconscious. Grub is still unconscious, and that is unfortunate. But we do have a dead warg. What can we do with that dead warg? Well, I think Janus is going to leave it for now, because I think in all of this, she's trying to keep her wits about her, but it's starting just to get to her. All the things that she went through in the tomb, the visions, fighting the white, running away, being held hostage by Quasimoond, seeing Rorik just lose in a duel, and now seeing Grub almost being taken away by this warg. So I think at the very end of the day, she's going to try to find some place where she can just hole up with Rorik and Grub and just stay awake for the entire night. Now, unfortunately, this is not going to count as rest for her, because she is in full panic mode. She is trying to be vigilant. She's trying to be aware of anything that might come across. For any more wargs, for any goblins, or any other monsters that happen to come her way. And so she's just going to stay laser focused for the rest of the night. She doesn't get the rest, unfortunately. But in the morning, Rorik and Grub manage to come to. She's just there, huddled with her little cloak, shivering, eyes wide awake with dark rings under her eyes. Rorik gently touches her, and she like jumps, and she realizes that he is conscious, he's awake, he is alive, and she just loses it. She hugs him and buries her face in his shoulder, and she just starts to cry. Unfortunately, she had to eat, and so she's down to 2 rations. Rorik has 4 rations left, but now he's going to have to split that with Grub, so they are tight on food and rations. We never did roll to see if Grub has a critical injury, so I am going to roll that real quick. His con is at 10 or under, so let's roll and see what happens. That is a 9, so we do not have to worry about a severe injury just yet for Grub, which is good. So I think what we're going to do is that Jaina and Rorik and Grub are going to slowly begin to make their way from Riddermound. They are going to try to follow the trail all the way back to Outskirt. Now, it is a 2-day journey, which means we do need to roll to see if there are any random events along the way. So for this first part, we are in the Iron Forest, so I am going to roll a d12 to see if there should be a random encounter here. And I think since they are being very, very careful, they're going at it slow. I think that on a 1 through 6 this time around, I am going to play it by the actual rules, that nothing's going to happen. I'm not going to bother rolling on the extra table that I have for this area. So I got my d12, let's see what happens. 6, right on the dot. Nothing happens for this first day. Jaina is being very cautious. She is very worried that something just might pop out. Maybe another warg or a band of wargs might come out and try to gobble Grub up again, who knows. But she's worried for not, because nothing happens that day. So we are going to try to roll to see if by any chance they can set up camp, a right and proper camp, so they can rest this time. And I think Rorik is going to try to do that, just because his bushcraft is a little bit better. I got my d20. Rorik needs an 8 or under in order to succeed at this bushcraft roll. Let's roll and see what happens. A 17 is rather unfortunate, but something that I did forget is that we have a tent. And so we are going to roll with a boon this time, because that's what tents do. A tent grants a boon when making camp, and a successful roll allows multiple people to sleep in the tent without making their own bushcraft rolls. And so we do have a small tent which can accommodate 2 people, but if we're going to be taking guard for a shift, then it kind of works out. So I got my other d20. We're going to roll that and see if we can get a success. 8 or under. 16. Unfortunately, nobody is going to be sleeping well tonight. We may have been able to make the tent and stay under, but unfortunately, nobody is going to be healing up this night. So that means that in the morning, our characters are going to head out, and by the end of this day, they should make it to Outskirt, but we do need to make another journey roll. This time they are in the Outskirt area, so we are going to go ahead and roll on that table. Once again, they are being very cautious here, and so I'm going to take it as it is. 1 through 6, nothing happens. 7 through 12, something is going to happen. A 9 this time around. A band of unwashed thugs jumps out at a bend in the road, weapons drawn and pointed at the player characters. The leader is a rat-like man with a greasy smile that leaves much to be desired in terms of both teeth and personal charm. "Hand over your valuables," he hisses, "or your lives and adventures end right here." The bandits outnumber the player characters by 1 and have the stats of typical bandits on page 105 in the core rulebook. They flee if half of them are defeated. That means we're going to have to deal with 4 bandits, and that's not good. They have 12 HP, a short sword and a short bow, with skills of bows 12, evade 10, and swords 12. So these are going to be formidable, especially if there's 4 of them. And since we've not been able to really heal up at all, this is going to be pretty bad for us. But we do have a little bit of an advantage. Jane is going to use her, well, she's going to use her brains this time, as Rorik is pulling out his sword and his shield, Jaina is going to just kind of hold up her hands just to kind of stop everything for the moment. She's going to reach in her pack and she's going to pull something out. We have, let's see, 4 gilded headbands and 4 jeweled rings that we got from the Riddermound tomb. I think she's going to pull out half of that. I think she's going to pull out the 4 jeweled rings to see if that can somehow persuade the bandits to, you know, this is all that they have, these are their valuables, and that they can take it and go off. So we are going to roll persuasion, and I'm actually going to give Jaina a boon because this is exactly what the bandits want. Unfortunately, her persuasion's at 6, but you never know. We are riding at a boon here, so let's roll and see what happens. Ooh, there we go. We got ourselves a dragon. And you know, I'm thinking about like how to apply this dragon, because we could say something stupid like, oh wait, no, they're betrothed and we're taking away all their rings, so we'll only take half of it and you can keep the rest. But I think that we're gonna meet some bandit, like a bandit with a heart of gold, and so they're gonna take the rings for sure. That's gonna be unfortunate. That's only 3 gold a piece though. But I think they're going to see that Jaina is like in a very dire situation. Like they're all bruised and they're all bloodied. Even the Grub, the goblin is, and Rorik definitely is. They're like all bandaged up and stuff like that. And so they're gonna take pity on them. And so I think that the bandits are going to just kinda, you know, escort them the rest of the way there, all the way to Outskirt. Or at least within close proximity, because, you know, they're bandits and they're probably wanted there. And so that means that we finally made it back to Outskirt. They are going to be staying at the 3 Stags Inn. They're going to attempt to try to sell whatever they've managed to bring back, minus the 4 rings because they don't have that anymore. But I think for this last part of our session, we're going to actually try to rank up some skills. Because it has been a while, it's been a few episodes at least, but this is actually a major break in the adventure. We've just finished a quest, so to speak, and so I think this is a perfect time to go ahead and try to rank up some skills. So remember, in addition to rolling dragons and demons, there is a way that we can gain experience. We can actually take advancement marks by answering a series of questions. So, did we participate in the game session? Yes, that's 1. Did you explore a new location? Yes, that's 2. Did you defeat 1 or more dangerous adversaries? Yes, that's 3, because the lady, for sure. Did you overcome an obstacle without using force? Yes, we actually did, the bandits. And did you give into your weakness? I'm not actually playing with a weakness right now, so that one's always going to be no. So we actually got 4 experience. And so with those, I can place marks on any skill that I choose. So for Jaina, we've already gotten a demon for bushcraft, so that's marked. We also rolled a dragon for persuasion, so that one's marked as well. So for the other 4, I've gone ahead and marked healing, spot hidden, bows, and elementalism. For Rorik, we've got quite a number that's already been marked. So bluffing, evade, and persuasion have all been marked already, either from a demon or a dragon, most likely a demon. So for the 4 advancement marks, I'm definitely going to mark down awareness, bushcraft, swords, and hunting and fishing, which would be very good when we actually run out of rations, as we did here. We actually ran out of rations getting back to Outskirt, but we're not actually hungry just quite yet. So when we set out again, we are going to need to buy some rations. So we're actually going to start with Jaina first in our rolls here. And so remember, in order to actually rank up a skill, we need to roll over the actual skill number. So bushcraft is first for Jaina. We need to roll a 7 or higher because her bushcraft is at 6. 4, unfortunately, is not going to do it. Oh man, don't tell me now we're actually going to start rolling under our skill, you know, and succeeding at some skills even though we're not using it that way. For healing, probably a very important skill for her. A 16, so that does rank up. So her healing is now at 13. For persuasion, we need a 7 or over. 13 does rank that up. So now her skill is at 7. Spot hidden, again, we also need a 7 or over. A 13 again does rank that up. Bows at 12. So we need a 13 or over. Ooh, an 11 does not rank that up, unfortunately. And elementalism, probably her most important skill. We need a 14 or over. A 17 does rank that up. So we are at rank 14 for that. All right, for Rorik, he's got a lot of skills to test here, but I'm confident that we can rank some of them up. Awareness is at an 11, so we need a 12 or over. A 3, unfortunately, does not rank that up. What about bluffing? That's at a 5. Surely we can do that. A 7 does rank that up. Bushcraft is at 8, so we need a 9 or over. 15 does rank that up. So our bushcraft is now at 9. Evade is at 10, so we need an 11 or over. At a 3, unfortunately, does not succeed. Hunting and fishing is at 10. Again, 11 or over. 7 does not rank it up. Persuasion is at 7, so we need an 8 or over. A 2 does not rank that up. Oh no, we're not gonna have any skills. We're only gonna have one skill ranked up for Rorik. Last but not least is swords. It's at skill rank 14. That means we need a 15 or over to successfully rank it up. We've already failed at almost every other roll here, so can this be the one? Can we actually rank swords up? Wow, a 1. So, of course we would have a dragon. Actually, since we rolled a dragon on swords, does that mean it stays marked for the next one? Nah, it just doesn't rank up, unfortunately. That would be a pretty cool house rule to do though, but unfortunately that's just the way the dice roll sometimes. So the only thing we really managed to rank up is bluffing for Rorik, and that's really a skill that probably isn't going to come up a whole lot. And really that's all there is for this leveling up. So that means our heroes are going to be granted some time to rest up. And in the next one, we'll go ahead and see if we can sell some stuff and then head out on another adventure.
I don't know why you're so upset, dearest brother. Those merry men were quite charming, and they were kind enough to escort us to Outskirt. Check back every other Thursday for a new episode of Table for One, a solo role-playing podcast. If you would like to support this podcast, please rate it or give it a thumbs up wherever you happen to be listening from. If you happen to be watching on YouTube, subscribe and be sure to leave a comment. Music was provided by Tabletop Audio and AI voice work by 11 Labs. If I didn't know any better, I'd say that one, what was his name again? Robin, Sparrow, Jay. Whatever his name was, he found me quite interesting.